Ho ho ho, crafty friends! I cannot believe we have reached the end of our crafty journey. Today is craftvent day 12, and we are finishing it off with a cute little canvas angel to put on the top of your tree. So I apologize in advance. My audio did not record properly when I was making this video, so I am going to attempt to do a super smooth voiceover, but it may be just a little bit disjointed with what you're seeing on the screen. So we're making these really fun canvas angels today. These are a classic. I remember them from when I was a kid. First thing we need to do is prep our skirt. So you have the semicircle, and we need to take out the first couple of rows. So we're just going to take a pair of scissors and trim back to that third row of little rectangles and get rid of that so that when we wrap it up around, it will wrap smoothly. Cut right through the middle. It's going to be a lot easier. We can go back and clean it up, although this will be on the inside, so it's not going to be that visible either, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but we do want to try to make sure we leave that fourth row of squares intact for sewing. So as you can see, there's some little nubs here. I'm a perfectionist, so I'm going to go ahead and go back through and just kind of trim them up a little. Again, completely optional, but I like to at least show you the best way to do it, even if honestly, if you weren't looking, I totally wouldn't. So now we have that nice little smooth hole. And that is again where we're going to be sticking our body and our wings through. And it's time to sew up the rest of this. Now, these holes are a little bit on the smaller side, and I did provide you cord that's a little bit thicker, so it's going to be a little bit trickier getting it through these holes. You've got a plastic yarn needle, and so as we're sewing these through, don't be afraid to just push and pull really, really hard. So you also can choose whatever pattern you want and whatever color combination you have. You've got both the skirt and the wings that you're going to have to fill. Uh, but how you choose to do that is really up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and make my skirt gold. I'm going to thread it through this nice plastic yarn needle that I should be big enough for that just to slide right through. And again, these are pretty sturdy things, so don't be afraid to provide a little bit of force. So I'm going to show you just the normal diagonal stitch for plastic canvas or cross stitch. We're just going to go up through one hole and then down through the diagonal hole in the next line. You can go up or down starting wherever you want, but we're just going to poke up through one and then cross diagonally over the plastic canvas bar. So one over, one up in my case. Again, you can go the opposite direction and just really push that thing through. Again, nice and stretchy. It will go. After the first couple, it gets a lot easier. And then pull a lot of cord through because you're going to have to keep pulling it through. I'm just going to repeat that pattern, and I'm actually going to fill up the entire angel that way all the way around. When I get to the next row, I'll just reverse and go back the X way until the whole thing is full. You can also wrap around the outside edge if you want to give that a clean finish, and to do that, you just pull it down, around, and poke back through your hole. So here it's what it looks like when it's completely filled up. As you can see, I just did the one diagonal and then wrapped around the edge. Some other options for you. If you want to make things faster and simpler, this one here just did 3 rows, different color on the bottom row, and then just went up and down all the way through the body. It does show a little bit more of the plastic canvas through, and it is loose, but it goes really, really fast that way. Here's a similar one. This one's just done with yarn. This one is 4 rows up and then the body. So as you can see, you can really play around and make all sorts of cool patterns. There is no right or wrong on how you want your angel to look. I do recommend when you do your wings though that you keep with the up in one, down in the opposite corner pattern, just because your wings are such a funky shape, and that will give it the best coverage. But how you make your colors is up to you. So we're gonna need to get all of that canvas filled up until it's completely covered, and then we are going to start attaching our pieces. So I am going to get another piece of this black and gold, and we are going to sew our 2 bits around. I do recommend you give your canvas a really good flex. If you warm it up a little bit, it tends to be a little more willing to bend as well. So I'm going to just sink a couple little stitches in the bottom to hold it together before I move up. And then we're just going to go up and then down, up and down all the way through. You can also wrap around the edges again to give it a cleaner appearance, as well as give it a stronger attachment. So the goal is just to overlap those two last rows of canvas and then sew through them however you like to attach. It will get really, really tricky when you get up towards the top of that skirt line just because you don't have a lot of room to maneuver. I have found that going through one row of canvas and then the second does make it a little bit easier, gives your fingers a little bit more space. And again, don't be afraid to just kind of brute force this. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can easily go back through and add more detail or more thread later to cover up any mistakes that you don't like. And also, it comes out really, really simply if you're not happy with the design. So you are not committed in any way, shape, or form. The good news is once you get to the top of the skirt, the rest of it is really a piece of cake. This is the most challenging portion of your entire canvas angel today. I will say these top little rows of this plastic round canvas, because they are smaller squares, I did notice that they tend to stretch, and I had one of them pop the seam for me. So the plastic actually stretched so far it broke. But again, I just ended up going through one more square over in order to attach that top. It's in the back, it's not going to be seen. I wasn't really worried about it. And when I sewed my wings in, I ended up covering it up. So again, all was not lost. See, I just squish it through. Sometimes art isn't pretty, but it ends up pretty. All right, there we are. So we are at the top. I'm going to just wrap one around here. Uh, when you're done, just tie it in a knot. Oh, see, there you go. I broke that one too. Okay, well, we'll just go over one more. And nobody will be the wiser except everybody watching this video and myself. But we are not going to tell because craft your secrets. All right, so there is the skirt. I've got my little tails here. I'm actually going to leave my tails in the middle hanging down at the moment just because I can use those to tie other pieces on later. But once you're all done, you will just tie them to themselves, trim them up really high up in there, and it will give you a nice clean finish. All right, so I got another pair of wings here that are already sewn. They are pink. You can put them in really whichever direction, but they are meant to go with the deep side down to kind of fit along the line of your skirt. And same thing, just gonna use that same piece that I already had attached and sink a couple of stitches through that bottom of that plastic canvas to hold it in place to the skirt. And it doesn't take much. One or two will be plenty sufficient, unless your angel plans on flying a marathon, in which case you might want to put a few extra stitches on for security purposes. But once you got that, next piece to do is the head. Now these beads are already decorated for you, but if you don't like them, you can certainly use your markers and paint over and start fresh. But they're pretty cute if you ask me. I love their little rosy cheeks. And that's just going to slide right on the top. You can add a little dab of glue if you're concerned about it coming off, but I have found that once you stick the halo in, it does give you a pretty tight squeeze there. So for our halo, I'm just going to use my finger, wrap this pipe cleaner around to make its little loop, and then twist the ends together so that I have a piece to thread down through her head bead and into her skirt. You can also play around with the location of where you put your halo. So I'm going to stick it down the back side of her just to show you how it looks back there. And so that'd be attaching to the skirt, or you can stick it literally right through her brain. Um, Always wondered what angels had on their minds, and now you know. It's actually just holding their halos. So tons of options for placements. You can actually attach it to her wings if you want it to curve around, put a little dab of glue on the back of her head to hold it in place. Uh, and that is also a great place to attach a string for hanging her if you want to use her as an ornament, or she's already perfectly tree topper shaped if you have a little tree that you can just stick her right on top. Once that is all attached and glued, again, tie off your ends, trim them up, and your angel is all ready to go. And decorate the top of your tree, or the middle of your tree, or the bottom of your tree. I hope you had a really fun time doing craftvent with me. I certainly enjoyed making all these activities, and hopefully we'll see you back for craftvent 2024.